Hey guys, it's me, Ren Ben Kanan. Thanks so much for checking out this part 20 of Jack Kerouac's On the Road, the original scroll. Before I get started, I want to say thank you to all those who've been checking out the channel, especially all the poets, writers, DJs, and those producing independent shows here on YouTube and on other different medias throughout the internet, radio, television, etc. Independent media is fantastic. So great job, especially to the channel Trendy as Dabbers. Love your show. Jimmy Dore, love your show. You guys, you're the guys I watch. So you're doing great. It's very entertaining. And for Trendy as Dabbers, thanks to all the Trendies and especially Nay, get well soon, buddy. Want to give a big shout out to all the Deadheads and the Fish Heads, the Beatniks and the Hippies and the people that are part of this generation that actually is continuing to go on right now, especially pages like Sense and Subtle Sounds. Big shout out to Jazz is Fish. If you're looking for some music to listen to that is fish-based when you are checking out your beat poetry or whatever, you can listen to it any time of the day. If you're looking for music that bridges those two wonderful things of jazz and fish, that's the band for you. Check out my show. I'll be playing them this week, and we got an interview coming up with those guys too. My radio show is on 107.7 FM here in Southern Vermont, but you can catch it on the internet every Tuesday, 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time on wvew.org. That's wvew.org, Vermont Earthworks. Big shout out to all the DJs there and all those involved in community and independent radio. Let's get back to our story. When we just left Jack, he was with Diane and Henri, and they were having a horrible fight. In fact, Diane was about to pick up a gun and shoot Henri, but Jack hit it, and Diane left the house, and she was now going to look for a cop, and the cop that she was looking for was the one that Jack had worked with back in Sausalito, the one who had been a cop at San Quentin, a real bastard with a cop soul, as Jack said. Let's get started. Again, thanks for liking, sharing, and subscribing. I appreciate it. Luckily, he wasn't home. She came back all wet. I hid in my corner with my head between my knees. Gad, what was I doing 3,000 miles from home, and why had I come here? Where was my slow boat to China? And another thing, you dirty cunt lapper, yelled Diane. Tonight was the last time I'll ever make your filthy brains and eggs and your filthy lamb curry so you can fill your filthy belly and get fat and sassy right before my eyes. It's all right, Henri just said quietly. It's perfectly all right. When I took up with you, I didn't expect roses and moonshine, and I'm not surprised this night and this day. I tried to do a few things for you. I tried my best for both of you. You both let me down, and I'm terribly disappointed in both of you. He continued in absolute sincerity. I thought something would come of us together, something fine and lasting. I tried. I flew to Hollywood. I got Jack a job. I bought you beautiful dresses. I tried to introduce you to the finest people in San Francisco. You refused. You both refused to follow the slightest wish that I had. I asked for nothing in return, and now I ask one last favor, and then I'll never ask a favor again. My father is coming to San Francisco this Saturday night. All I ask is that you come with me, try to look as though everything is the way I've written him. In other words, Diane, you are my woman, and Jack, you are my friend. I've arranged to borrow $100 for Saturday night. I'm gonna see that my father has a good time and can go away without any reason in the world to worry about me. This surprised me. Henri's father was a distinguished French professor in Columbia University and a member of the Legion of Honor in France. I said, you mean to tell me you're gonna spend $100 on your father? He's got more money than you'll ever have. You'll be in debt, man. That's all right, said Henri quietly with defeat in his voice. I ask only one last thing of you. Try at least to make things look all right. I love my father and I respect him. He's coming with his young wife straight from the summer of teaching in Banff in Canada. We must show him every courtesy. There were times when Henri was really the most gentlemanly person in the world. Diane was impressed and looked forward to meeting his father. She thought he might be a catch if his son wasn't. Saturday night rolled around and I had already quit my job with the cops just before being fired for not making enough arrests. And this was going to be my last Saturday night, and Henri and Diane went to meet his father at the hotel room first. I had traveling money and got crocked in the bar downstairs, and I went up to join them all, late as hell. His father opened the door, a distinguished little man in pince-nez glasses. "Ah," I said on seeing him, "Monsieur Crew, how are you? Je suis ho." I cried, which was intended to mean in French, "I'm high, I've been drinking," but it means absolutely nothing in French. The man was perplexed. I had already screwed up. Henri blushed at me. We all went to a swank restaurant to eat, Alfred's on the North Beach, where poor Henri spent a good $50 for the 5 of us for drinks and all, and now there transpired the worst thing ever. Who should be sitting at the bar in Alfred's but my old friend Alan Temko. He had just arrived from Denver and got a job at the San Fran Chronicle. He was crocked. He wasn't even shaved. He rushed over and slapped me on the back as I lifted a highball to my lips. He threw himself down on the booth beside Mr. Crew and leaned over the man's soup to talk to me. Henri was all red as a beet. "Won't you introduce your friend, Jack?" he said with a weak smile. Alan Temko of the San Francisco Chronicle," I tried to say with a straight face. Diane was furious with me. Temko began chatting into Monsieur's ear. "How do you like teaching high school French?" he yelled. "Pardon me, but I don't teach high school French." I thought you taught high school French." He was being deliberately rude. I remember the night he wouldn't let us have our party in Denver, but I forgave him. I forgave everybody. I gave up. I got drunk. I began talking moonshine and roses to the Monsieur's young wife. She was a real Parisian woman, about 35, sexy and aloof, but warm and womanly. I piled indignities to the ceiling. I drank so much I had to rush out of the booth for a leak every 2 minutes, and to do so I had to hop over the Monsieur's lap. Everything was falling apart. My stay in San Francisco was coming to an end. Henri would never talk to me again. It was horrible because I really loved Henri, and I was one of the very few people in the world who knew what a genuine and grand fellow he was. It would take years for him to get over with. How disastrous all this was compared to the nights I rode him in Ozone Park and planned my red line route across America. Here I was at the end of America. No more land. And now there was nowhere to go but back. I determined at least to make my trip a circular one. I decided then and there to go to Hollywood. I'm back through Texas to see my Bayou gang, and the rest be damned. Temko was thrown out of Alfred's. Dinner was over. The rest be damned. Anyway, I joined him. That is to say, Henri suggested it, and I went off with Temko to drink. We sat at a table in the Iron Pot, and Temko said, "Sam, I don't like that fairy at the bar," in a loud voice. "Yeah, Jake?" I said. "Sam," he said, "I think I'll get up and conk 'em." "No, Jake," I said, carrying on with the Hemingway imitation. "Just aim from here and see what happens." We ended up swaying on a street corner. I never dreamed I'd be back on that same street corner 2 years later, and then again 3 years later. I said goodbye to Temko. In the morning, as Henri and Diane slept, and as I looked with some sadness at the big pile of wash Henri and I were scheduled to do with the Bendix machine in the shack in the back, which had always been such a joyous, sunny operation among the colored women with Mr. Snow laughing his head off, I decided to leave. I went out the porch. "No, damn it," I said to myself. I promised I wouldn't leave until I climbed that mountain. That was the big side of the canyon that led mysteriously to the Pacific Ocean. So I stayed another day. It was Sunday. A great heat wave descended. It was a beautiful day. The sun turned red at 3. I started up the mountain at 3 and got to the top at 4, and all those lovely California cottonwoods brooded all on all sides. I felt like playing cowboys. Near the peak, there were no more trees, just rocks and grass, and cattle were grazing on top of the coast. There was the Pacific, a few more foothills away, blue and vast, and with a great wall of white advancing from the legendary potato patch where Fisco fogs are born. Another hour and it would come steaming through the Golden 8 to shroud the romantic city in white, and a young man would hold his girl by the hand and climb slowly up a long white sidewalk with a bottle of Tokay in his pocket. That was Frisco. And beautiful women standing in white doorways waiting for their man, and Coit Tower and Embarcadero and Market Street and the 11 teeming hills. Lonely Frisco for me, though, which would buzz a few years later when my soul got stranger. Now I was only a youth on the mountain. I stooped, looked between my legs, and watched the world upside down. The brown hills led off towards Nevada. To the south was my legendary Hollywood. To the north, mysterious Shasta country. Down below was everything. The barracks where we stole our tiny box of condiments, where Dostoevsky's tiny face had glared at us, where Henri had made me hide the toy gun, and where our squeaking yells had transpired. I spun around until I was dizzy. I thought I'd fall down as in a dream, clear off the precipice. Oh, where is the girl I love, I thought. And I looked everywhere, as I had looked everywhere in the little world below, and before me was the great raw bulge and bulk of my American continent. Somewhere far across gloomy, crazy New York was throwing up its cloud of dust and brown steam. There's something brown and holy about the East. California is white like wash lines and empty-souled. At least that's what I thought then. I'd learn better later. Now it was time to pursue my moon along. In the morning, Henri and Diane were asleep as I quietly packed and slipped out the window the same way I'd come in, and left Marin City with my canvas bag. And I never spent that night on the old ghost ship, the Admiral Freebie it was called. And Henri and I were lost. In Oakland, I had a beer among the bums of a saloon with a wagon wheel in front of it, and I was on the road again. I walked clear across Oakland to get on the Fresno Road. I was on the verge of entering the great buzzing valley of the world, San Joaquin, where I was destined to meet and love a wonderful woman and go through the craziest adventures of all before I got back home.